There was a king of Greece who was sorely afflicted with a grievous leprosy. His physicians had exerted all their art in vain. His case was declared hopeless, and Ha expected every day to sink under the loathsome disease which oppressed him. At this time there came to his court a strange Physician named Douban, who, after examining the patient, asserted that, so far from the king being incurable, he would undertake to restore his health without either inward potions or outward applications. This extraordinary proposal was readily accepted. The physician prepared a racket, and besought the king to play at tennis with it. "I have lodged," said he, "certain drugs in the handle, which is hollow. When these are heated, they will penetrate your Majesty's whole frame. Leave off then, bathe, and retire to rest, and tomorrow you will find yourself perfectly cured." The king followed the direction of Douban, and rose the next morning entirely free from his malady. The physician was invested with the most distinguished honors. The king loaded him also with riches, and the courtiers with caresses. He became the declared favorite, and every one who had a suit to prefer to the king solicited the interest of the physician. But amid all his prosperity lurked the most fatal destruction. The Grecian king was a very weak prince, easily irritated and tyrannical in his disposition. His former favorites envied Douban and seized every opportunity to excite distrust of him in the royal breast. "He is become," said they, "next in dignity and power to yourself. As he cured you in a manner so simple, may he not also by methods as unsuspected cut off your Majesty, who alone stands between him and the throne?" For a long time the Grecian king repelled these insinuations. "Were I to listen to you," said he to his courtiers, "I should be like a certain man who had a faithful parrot, who reported to him the incontinence of his wife during his absence. The wife, enraged at the telltale, contrived a method of destroying the credit of the bird, and being revenged at the same time. Accordingly, when her husband went another journey, she caused a slave to scatter water over the cage all night, in the manner of rain, while others produced plus or minus the appearance of thunder and lightning. The next day, when the husband returned, the parrot complained of having been exposed all night to the fury of a continual storm. As the master knew the weather had been exceedingly fine, he hastily concluded that his bird was false, and in resentment put it to death. But the future ill conduct of his wife too soon proved to him his parrot's truth and his own rashness. "Sir," replied his vizier, "it is my duty to be particularly attentive to your safety, nor must I suffer you to be led by specious appearances into real danger." The vizier of a neighboring king was entrusted with the care of his master's only son, and so ill did he perform that duty, that he suffered the young prince to separate from his train, in the eagerness of the chase, till he was left alone and had lost his way. While he rode about, he came up to a handsome lady who appeared to be in great distress. The prince was naturally compassionate. He heard her tale, and at her request took her upon his horse, which he guided by her direction. They came at length to the ruins of a castle in a lonely place, where the lady desired him to alight. He obeyed. The lady entered the ruins, and while he was securing his horse, he heard her say softly, "Be glad, my children. I have brought you a handsome young man, very fat." Other voices immediately answered, "Mamma, where is he? Let us eat him presently, for we are very hungry." The prince heard enough to convince him of his deed. He perceived that the supposed distressed lady was really an ogress, wife to one of those savage demons called ogres, who frequent remote places and use 1,000 wiles to surprise and devour passengers. He began to untie his horse again with all diligence, putting up all the while prayers to heaven for his deliverance. The ogress, returning to the door, never doubted but B was still employed in fastening his horse, and hearing him utter prayers, she also pretended to put up ejaculations. But the prince was not to be deceived by this hypocrisy. Having loosened the rein, he leaped upon the saddle, and was soon out of the monster's power. But although he escaped unhurt, His royal father was so much enraged at the danger he had been in, that he very justly caused his careless vizier to be put to death. I should deserve the same punishment if I did not protest against the conduct of Douban, who, though as specious as the Ogress, may be equally dangerous. The credulous Grecian king began at length to listen to these insinuations, which the vizier, observing, so inflamed his passions that he caused his benefactor to be seized and brought into his presence to be put to death. Douban, astonished at so fatal a denunciation, solicited earnestly for mercy, but in vain. "You see," said the fisherman to the genie, "how the king treated his benefactor. So have you also behaved to me." When Douban found himself in the hands of the executioner, he once more applied himself to the king, requesting he would, at least, allow him to live till the next day. "I have," said he to the cruel prince, "among my books one well worthy of your majesty's acceptance. If, when my head is struck off, you will open the book at the 6th leaf, and read the 3rd line, my head will answer any question you shall ask the king. Though insensible to pity or to gratitude, was moved by a frivolous curiosity to defer the execution." The following day, when Douban was brought into the royal presence, he renewed his supplication for life, reminded the king of his services, and in the most earnest manner protested his innocence. The unworthy prince told him plainly that all he could say was in vain. "Were it only," continued he, "to hear your head speak after it is cut off. It is my pleasure you should be put to death." The physician, seeing his fate inevitable, submitted. He presented a large folio to the king. "Place my head," said he, "for a moment on the cover of this book, and I shall be in a condition to answer your questions." The executioner performed his office, and the head being placed as directed, the blood stanched, the eyes opened, and it called upon the king to open the book. The king obeyed, but finding the leaves stick together, he put his finger to his mouth and wetted it to separate them. When he came to the 6th leaf, he said, "Please, physician, there is nothing written here." "Turn over leaf by leaf," said the head, "till you come to the writing." The king continued to turn over the leaves, putting his finger continually to his mouth, till the poison with which each leaf was impregnated took effect. The asterisk head, perceiving that the king had but few moments to live, exclaimed, "Tyrant, you are justly punished." Having said this, its eyes closed, and it remained without life. The king, also, in a short time, fell down and expired. "You find, genie," said the fisherman, "that though the physician could not preserve his life, he contrived to punish his ungrateful murderer. I am more fortunate in being now out of your power, and having you in mine. I am now about to return you to the sea." "My good friend," replied the genie, "remember, revenge is forbidden. Do not treat me as Imama did." "How was that?" asked the fisherman. "Ho," replied the genie, "do you think I can tell stories in this confinement? Let me out, and I will tell you as many as you please." "No," said the fisherman, "I will not let you out. On the contrary, I will this moment cast you back into the sea." "Hear me, I charge," exclaimed the genie. "If thou wilt deliver me, I swear in the most solemn manner that I will not hurt thee. On the contrary, I will teach thee how to become as rich as thou desirest to be." Overcome by this promise, the fisherman once more opened the vessel, and the genie, resuming his form, instantly kicked it into the sea. The fisherman was alarmed at this action, but the genie assured him he was safe. He then led him up a mountain, from whence they descended to a great pond that lay between 4 hills. "Cast in thy nets here," said the genie, "and carry the fish thou shalt take to the Sultan, who will liberally reward thee. Only beware not to throw in thy nets more than once a day, or thou wilt repent it." Having said this, the genie disappeared. The fisherman immediately threw in his nets. But though the pond seemed to abound with fish, he caught only 4. He was much pleased to find them unusually beautiful, and each of a different color, one being white, one red, one blue, and one yellow. Having much admired them, he set off for the palace, to present them to the Sultan. The singular beauty of the fish made them very acceptable. The liberal prince rewarded the fishermen with 400 pieces of gold, and ordered them to be served as a part of the entertainment of the day. But an amazing prodigy disappointed the Sultan. As the cook was frying the fish, on turning them the wall of the kitchen opened, and a beautiful young lady entered, holding a rod of myrtle in her hand, and advancing to the pan, she struck one of the fish, saying, "Fish, fish, are ye in your duty?" When the 4 fish, lifting up their heads together, said, "Yes, yes, if you reckon, we reckon. If you fly, we overcome, and are content." As soon as they had thus spoken, the lady overturned the frying pan and passed again through the wall, which closed immediately, and became as before. The cook was exceedingly terrified. But recovering herself and picking up the fish, she had the misfortune to find that they were burnt to a cinder, and utterly unfit to be served at the royal table. She was under the necessity of relating the phenomenon to the vizier. That minister invented an excuse, which satisfied the Sultan. But being very desirous of seeing so strange a scene, he ordered the fisherman to provide him for other fish, of the same sort, as soon as possible. The day following, the fisherman obeyed the vizier's orders, and to his great joy received another 400 pieces of gold. The vizier shut himself up with the cook, who placed the fish on the fire, and on turning them, when fried on one side, the wall again opened. The lady appeared the same. Dialogue passed between her and the fish. When having overturned the pan, she retired, and the wall closed, as on the preceding day. The vizier, astonished beyond measure at so great a prodigy, failed not to relate the matter to the Sultan. That prince was equally surprised and impatient to see so strange a scene himself. The fisherman provided 4 more fish on the following day, and again received a sum, which was to him quite a treasure. The Sultan, attended by his vizier, retired into his closet. The fish were placed on the fire, and on turning them, the wall opened. But instead of the young lady, there came out a gigantic black, in the habit of a slave, who advanced with an air of anger to the pan, and touching one of the fish, said, in a terrible voice, "Fish, are thee in your duty?" At these words, the fish raised up their heads, and answered, "Yes, yes, we are. If you reckon, we reckon. If you pay your debts, we pay ours. If you fly, we overcome, and are content." To black then threw the pan into the middle of the closet, and the fish were reduced to coal. Having done this, he read fiercely, and the wall shut, and remained as before. When the Sultan recovered from his astonishment, he sent for the fisherman to know where he caught these extraordinary fish, and finding it was near the city, he ordered his usual retinue, and set off immediately. On ascending the mountain, the pond, and an immense plain beyond it, presented themselves, which no one remembered to have seen before. The Sultan ordered his court to encamp by the side of the pond, and retired to his pavilion with his vizier. To him the Sultan declared his resolution of exploring, alone, this new-discovered plain, in hopes of finding out the cause of so many wonderful events. He commanded the vizier to detain his attendants on that spot, and to excuse to them his not appearing, under the pretense of his being indisposed. At the dawn of the morning, the Sultan set forward, and by sunrise he saw before him a great building, which roved to be a magnificent palace of black marble. As the gates were open, the prince entered, but met no any living creature. He wandered through many spacious apartments, all furnished in the most splendid manner, and kept in the most exact order. He called out aloud, but no one answered. After walking about a long time, he grew weary, and sitting down, was beginning to reflect on the wonders which had happened, when he was interrupted by the voice of one complaining. He listened attentively, and following the sound, he came to a magnificent hall, at the upper end of which, on a throne of burnished gold, sat a handsome young man, richly habited in regal attire, but oppressed with the deepest melancholy. As the Sultan drew near, he saluted him. The young prince returned the salute by bowing his head. "I ought to rise, sir," said he to the Sultan, "to receive you, but, alas, I can but too well apologize for continuing in this posture. Saying this, he drew aside his robe, and discovered to the Sultan that he was only a man from the head to the girdle, and that the other part of his body was black marble. "What you show me," said the Sultan, "fills me with grief and horror. One conjure you, most unfortunate prince, to relate to me by what accident you have been reduced to your present situation. I am persuaded your story is somehow connected with certain extraordinary events, which have occurred to me lately. Perhaps fortune has led me hither to be of service to you." "Alas," replied the young man, "I have no hope of relief. Yet though I must renew my grief by repeating my story, your appearance, as well as your offers of assistance, entitle you to compliance. If you liked the video, do you and forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get the next episode as soon as it's out. And make sure to like the video because it really helps us keep going. Are you ready to find out what happens next? The answers and decisive confrontations are waiting for you in the next episode, coming very soon. Don't miss it at the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode, coming soon.